Joining me now, Sky News contributor Graham Richardson. Richo, great to see you tonight. Look, it started out as a bromance between the Prime Minister and Daniel Andrews in those early days, but there's clearly tension now. The fact that the Prime Minister's cut short his Queensland trip just hours into a 3-day sojourn and headed back to Victoria suggests that things aren't great between those two leaders.
Well, I think it just suggests more that this situation is incredibly serious and it requires the attention of both the state leader and the federal leader. I mean, we haven't faced anything like this. There's no rule book. This is a suck it and see operation, and it's tough. And we'll make mistakes along the way. The trick is to pick the mistakes early, correct them, and move on. And let's hope we can do that. Victoria's in the worst situation. It's got the most cases. And unfortunately, that means you have to guard against the spread. The only way you stop it spreading is people not going out. And it's very hard to say to people in this day and age, stay inside. Sadly, too many people have ignored the warnings.
Richo, we've had this Royal Commission already into aged care. I mean, Labor is already saying that it was a fractured system already. Do you think that we need to reimagine the way we look at aged care off the back of what's clearly some failings in that area? Well,
clearly the way we fund it is a broken system, and that is shown by how hard it is to get a place. Placements are not keeping up with the death toll. It's that simple. And that's a really serious problem for any nation, especially nations like ours that are ageing very quickly. So this is, in my view, by the way, a problem way beyond politics. This needs to be sorted out between the states and the Commonwealth. It needs every hand on deck, and it means not worrying about which party you happen to support. This is way above party politics. Life and death is, I think, the most serious you can get, and that's right where we are, right at the cutting edge.
Speaking of life and death, we saw today the Black Lives Matter protest, which the court said couldn't proceed. There are a few people that lobbed down to the Domain there in Sydney. Half a dozen were arrested, $1,000 fines meted out. I guess in some ways, Graham, at least they're starting to get the message. And as we often say here on this show, you know, they're entitled to their opinion, but the timing is terrible.
Yeah, but the interesting thing was how few turned up. Yeah, the organiser turned up because he loves getting his face on television and thinks he's a hero, and a few stragglers and demonstrators that would turn up to any demonstration just so they can hold a placard up. There were half a dozen of them. But this demonstration was a dismal failure, an abject failure, a disaster for the organisers. And I think that just shows the good sense of people. I think people know that at this time, with this sort of a bug around, the last thing you want is to gather in a crowd and march down the street. It's just so dumb. It isn't inspired, it isn't courageous, it isn't showing how tough you are. It's just dumb.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Joel Fitzgibbon, he was pretty clear today, Richo. He doesn't want a bar of this splinter group, this conservation group, this climate change group, and he's made it very clear that he thinks they're on the wrong track and they're jumping into bed with the Greens. And in some cases, he said, he thinks the Greens are infiltrating the Labor Party.
Well, I'm never sure whether the left or the Labor Party is infiltrating the Greens or the Greens are infiltrating the left. I think there's a bit of two-way traffic in that respect, and there always has been. I mean, you've got to expect that. On the left, there's always a lot of movement. Left-wing parties are traditionally unstable. Far-left parties are traditionally unstable. I mean, you never get a stable Trotskyist group. That's unheard of. And we won't see it now. So I think we've just got to say to ourselves, they don't matter anyway, and focus on the real problem. And as long as the government understand that this isn't about politics, that it's got to, that as we go along the road to sorting this incredible mess out, then we're going to have both sides working together. And I hope this concept of a national cabinet, with the addition of Anthony Albanese, I think, ought to be an ongoing feature of Australian politics. Seems to me it is a good way of getting people together, getting them around the table and having issues sorted. I think I've been very impressed with the way it's worked so far, so I'm one of those who hope it stays.
Richo, looks like Clive Palmer is going to throw his hat in the ring with a number of candidates. The suggestion is he might field a candidate in every seat at the Queensland election. Now, we saw the way he conducted himself with a $60 million splurge during the last federal election campaign, and I've got no doubt that those big ads that he took out had an impact. I'm sure they didn't help Bill Shorten. He'll probably do the same with Anastasia Palaszczuk. Do you think Palmer's big wallet can have any influence at all on the upcoming Queensland election?
A lot harder to bag Palaszczuk than it was Shorten. A lot harder. People like her, and I think he's taking on something he can't possibly succeed at. But this guy has a head bigger than all outdoors. He actually thinks he's really smart, and so he'll go ahead because he thinks he has every answer. Poor bastard never knew what the question was, but that doesn't stop him. He just keeps going, and it'll be annoying, and the ads will be great. They'll drive us all mad, but they won't decide who wins or loses.
Graham Richardson, good to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Good on you, mate. Thank you.